Okay, we are live, everybody. Welcome to our Google Plus Hangout, where we're going to talk about bugs and about all the things that you can find in your home that are creepy crawly. My name is Rob Nelson, and I am the producer of some of the videos that I'm hoping everybody's seen about bugs in your homes. And then we also are going to have Misha from California Academy of Sciences. I pulled up her picture right there. She's going to give you guys a talk about bugs, just an introduction to them. And she'll fill you in on all that, what she does for a living. Live, everybody. Welcome to our Google Plus Hangout, where we're going to talk. Okay, there we go. This is going to be just really exciting. And then, so what's going to happen? Misha's going to talk for about 10 minutes, and she's going to talk about anything she wants to. And I want everybody to start thinking of questions that they want to ask, because afterwards, I'm going to go around to the different classes. I'm going to cue you. And hopefully we can have a little Q&A session for the next 20 minutes. So it'll be a little 30-minute broadcast. And I think we're going to learn a lot. So with that said, Misha, would you like to go ahead and start us off and tell us what you know about bugs?
Thanks, Rob. Hi, everyone. So my name is Misha Leong. I'm an entomologist here at the California Academy of Sciences. And an entomologist is just a fancy way of somebody who studies insects for a living. And I guess I could tell you that I got my start because I think a lot of people your age are just really into insects, and then something happens in high school or junior high school where you... Hello.
Hello.
So I was just starting to talk about insects, and I was going to say that I have a collection here. Rob, did you want to... Wait, that one? Okay. Okay. Well, anyways, here.
Okay.
Some of the things.
Can you mute your microphone for us? Awesome. And then I'll cue you guys in a second. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Misha.
Okay. I was just going to show you guys some insects that I have here. So, right here, these really pretty things right here, these are actually flies. And I just want to show what some of the biodiversity of flies can look like. And I also have some beetles, all the different ways that beetles can look. Look at that. That one has a really crazy long, nose. It's a type of weevil. These are a bunch of ants, flies, and wasps. They're in a group called Hymenoptera. And actually, bees are the groups that I studied the most when I was doing my PhD dissertation. And here's some cool beetles that are like little jewels. And then people always ask me what the biggest insect in the world is, and so I have it right here for you guys. It's a Goliath beetle, and it's from South America. So we can talk more about that if you want later. But I guess, I mean, insects are really a broad thing to talk about. There's about, I wish that I could hear you guys, because I'd love to hear what everyone's guess is on how many insect species there are in the world. So you can just shout it out to everyone in your class right now on how many insects you think there are in the world. No, I don't see anyone's mouth moving, but that's okay. I'll just tell you. There's about 1 million described species of insects already, and it's estimated that there's anywhere from 2 to 30, actually someone's even estimated 100 million species that we still have to describe. So it's a really fun thing to be working on insects, because it's a group that we're still trying to learn a lot more about. It's not something that you have to go to outer space to find new species, because there's actually species that we have right in everyone's backyard or in their houses, and that's one of the fun things about entomology, is the discovery-based element of it. I guess some fun facts about them is, for every human there is on the planet, there's about 200 million individual insects that represent each of those for each of those people. And for every pound of human, so like I guess if you're about 50 pounds, for every pound of human, there's about 300 pounds of insects. So it's just a really large group, and there's a lot of diversity in them. What else was I going to show you? All right, so there's also groups that people think of as insects that aren't, but they're closely related, and they're arthropods. And so this is right here is a tailless whip scorpion. And I don't know if you can see it. Anyone see it? It's really well camouflaged. You guys see it?
I see it. And, can you take that off, Misha, or is that one that's stuck on the thing?
Let's see. I don't know. I don't want it to run around my office, but he really likes the bark. I know it's well camouflaged, but it's huge. It's probably about this. I can poke it. Oh, it's kind of moving right now if you want to see it. Can you guys see it? Here, I'll put it on a piece of paper. All right. So that's a tailless whip scorpion. So it's a type of arthropod, and actually, if you guys have seen any of the Harry Potter movies, there's a spider that everyone's afraid of, but it's not really a spider. It's one of these guys. And so this is a closely related thing to a spider. It's an arachnid, and they're arthropods. And along with insects and arachnids and crustaceans, which are like lobsters and crabs, they make up this really, really large group that falls under invertebrates, which are a bunch of animals. Yeah, they're animals that don't have backbones and instead have exoskeletons. And it just creates this whole different kind of way for them to have to grow. Oh, there's all the students in that class. All right, so, I mean, I feel like I just covered some really basic things about them. And I just have more insects to show, but I don't know how well those are coming up. Here's a really large spider that I got right here. You guys can see that one? It's like almost as big as my head, huh? Or even bigger. And then we have some butterflies from South America, which are these really beautiful blue ones. They're like morpho butterflies. And what's cool is they're really colorful and shiny on one side, but if you flip it around, if they close their wings, they actually hide and are really well camouflaged because they look just like the trees that they're sitting on. And similarly, you guys have probably seen grasshoppers and crickets and katydids, and you think that they usually hide really well because they look like brown or green and they blend in. But they actually, if you look at their wings, they can have really colorful wings underneath. And it's something we call disruptive coloration because they just do a flash of color and then the predator looks and they see some of the color and then they camouflage themselves wherever they land and then people can't see where they went. Let me show you something else that's really cool. So this right here, this is called a spider wasp. If you want to say the fancy scientific name for it, it's Pompilidae. And what's cool about these guys is they're actually really bad news if you're a spider because the female will go around, and I've actually seen this happen when I was doing field work once. The females will go around and they'll go searching for a spider, and if they find one, they'll paralyze it by stinging them, and so the spider's still alive, but they're completely paralyzed and unable to move, and then the mother wasp will drag the spider back to her little burrow and then lay her eggs on them, and so the spider stays alive, but then her eggs hatch, and the developing larvae are eating the spider while it's still alive, so they have fresh food. But it's pretty nasty if you're a spider. But all of the wasps in this group like to do that. What else? Rob, do you have any questions yet?
Well, I have a lot of questions, of course, but I think maybe what we should do is we should open it up to some discussion from the different classes. So I think, would you guys like that, the different classes? If you do, wave your hands really big if you'd like to ask some questions. Okay, yes. That means we should open it up to classrooms.
Okay.
So let's see. Let me just go through, and I'm going to call out a class, and then you guys can ask a question. Okay, why don't we start right now with Dawn? Let's see, that would be Miss Lee, Miss Frank's class, I think. The class that's on right now. There you go, all of you guys. So go ahead, unmute the microphone and ask a question.
Hi. What are his questions?
I'm having a really hard time hearing you guys, and I'm not sure why. Oh, man. Yeah, I actually can't hear you guys. Your microphone is really distorted for me.
Maybe you could type it?
Oh, man. Okay, let's do this. We're going to come back to you guys. We're gonna come back to that. Oh,
I
it's written on a piece of paper. Hold it a lot closer, and I think you can get to it. Okay, we're gonna mute you guys. Where and how do you find the spiders? Did you see that, Misha?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay,
that's a
go
good
for it.
question. That's a really good question. So there's a lot of different methods that I've used when I've gone spider hunting. There's one where you can put little cups in the ground, and they're like little mini pitfall traps. And then spiders that are walking around will just accidentally fall in, and then I'm able to collect them later on. There's another method that's called beating, and it's where you put a sheet underneath a tree or a bush, and you whack it with a stick, and a bunch of spiders and other insects will come out, and as they're running away, you can pick them up that way. And another method is just flipping over rocks and looking for spider webs, and just a lot of hand collecting. And actually, if you're really wanting to look for spiders, a lot of them are nocturnal, so it helps to have a really good headlamp and just walking around with them. That's a great question. That's very practical.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Okay, we're gonna go to a different class right now. We're gonna go to Mr. Sinclair's class. So, Mr. Sinclair, if you guys have a question, maybe someone can stand up, unmute your microphone, and we'll hear from you guys. Okay, go ahead.
Ella and Logan, front and center. Quick, quick. Go ahead. Ask the question.
What is the biggest insect you've seen?
Oh, well, the biggest is actually one of the biggest insects that we know of worldwide, and that's this Goliath beetle right here. And actually, the way that I saw one it actually wasn't this exact individual or this exact species, but something very closely related. The way I saw it was I had a black light set up when I was in the tropics, and then it actually flew in. So even though they're this huge, they can actually very clumsily fly around, and then it hit the white sheet and then fell into a tub that I had beneath it. It was quite clumsy, but it was attracted to the light, so I was able to see it that way. It's a good question. It's amazing they could fly.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to move on to the next question, and it's going to be Miss Bennett's class. And before we do, what I want is I want to see a show of hands because everybody's kind of muted, right? How many people have seen the videos that Misha and I are in? Okay. Yes, that means a lot of people have seen it. For those of you guys who haven't, I see some people haven't, go back and watch the videos afterwards. You're going to be really impressed. Misha is a superstar. So, okay, so let's see. Miss Bennett's class, are you guys ready to ask a question? Okay, yep, you're unmuted. Go ahead and ask the question.
How long does crickets live?
Ooh, that's another good question. So whenever we're talking about insect lifespans, it can be really very because I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with the story of the very hungry caterpillar. So a lot of things that we see, like a cricket, it wasn't always looking like a cricket. It sometimes looked like something a little bit smaller. And so sometimes okay, I won't get into that bit. But with crickets, they could I would say they could probably live about a month to 6 months. They're usually living less than a year, even if you take really good care of it. So if you have a pet cricket, don't feel bad if it doesn't live forever. But they usually just come and go with the seasons. But what I was going to tell you about is other groups that aren't crickets, like beetles or butterflies. They have a different life cycle where, you know, we see them as a butterfly, but then they have a baby period where they look like a caterpillar and a cocoon in the middle. And so with beetles, one of the oldest beetles we know of, it actually stayed in the cocoon phase, or the equivalent of the pupal phase, for 1,300 years. So sometimes these animals can be really, really old between when the egg was laid and the larva ate, and then it just went to sleep for over 1,000 years before it emerged as an adult. So sometimes it's hard to say how old an insect is. But yeah, good question as well.
Awesome. Good question, Misha. Okay, we are going to go to Miss Wesneski's class in Wisconsin. So if somebody wants to stand up and ask a question there. And let's see, your microphone unmuted. I'll unmute it for you. Okay, go ahead and ask your question.
Is there a difference if there's pets in your home? How many bugs there are in the home?
Okay, that's a good one. So Sometimes houses get, so the word, when we talk about the word insect pest, it's actually a very human value laden sort of word. And so something like a ladybird beetle or like a ladybug, if we just see one, we don't usually think of it as a pest, but if you're getting like hundreds of them in your house, then you're like, okay, that's pretty annoying. And then we give it the word pest. There are certain groups that tend to get the word pest more than others, like ants can get that label, or termites, especially if they're giving damage to your house. They can get in large enough numbers that we start calling them pests. Spiders, the only kind of, who considers a spider a pest in their house? Yeah, some people do. I mean, usually there are not that many of them, and a lot of them are probably, for every spider you see walking around your house, there's probably at least 20 others that you didn't see or more. And so they don't always get the label, and actually sometimes they help to manage potential pest populations by eating some of these other arthropods that might have wandered in. But as far as if there are more pests than others, how it affects, I mean, anytime you have individuals, they're going to affect the community. And so if there's one population that's getting out of control, yeah, it'll probably depress the other populations. But we don't, in all of the houses that we've sampled so far, nothing was really at a really bad level that we would have called it a major pest that you would have had to call in an exterminator for.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, the next one that we're going to get is from Surrey, British Columbia, Miss Utsunomiya's, I probably mispronounced that, class. So get ready, but before we do that, I have a question for everybody. Obviously, you have bugs in your homes. That's what Misha's trying to ask. How many people have seen bugs in their home in the last week? Raise your hand. Okay, and how many people think that's a really good thing? That you have bugs in there. Wow. I hope everybody is Misha can address that maybe next too. Okay, go ahead. Let's see. We've got Jessica's class. Jessica Utsunomiya. Okay, are you? I unmuted you. Go ahead.
There we go. So yeah, go ahead. Do spiders have a special diet that they have to eat to make spider webs?
Ooh, that's a really good question too. So generally, people who study spiders, we call them arachnologists. We usually consider spiders to be generalist predators, meaning they'll just opportunistically eat whatever they can run into. But at the same time, they probably do require certain nutrients to go into their webs, but most arthropods that they're eating really cover that. I can think of one spider that's kind of a specialist that eats something that nobody else does, and that's this jumping spider that we recently, only in like maybe the past decade, have found out it's actually a partially vegetarian spider, and it eats these little plant bits on the tips of a certain tree leaf. And so that one has kind of a unique diet, and it's still able to make silk because it's jumping around on the trees. But yeah, as far as there being a particular, are you thinking of there being a particular insect that the spiders need to eat to make the silk? Okay. Yeah, no, they can eat a lot of different things, and actually, the same individual spider can make up to 6 different types of silk, depending on what kind of purpose it needs. So, like the silk that spiders use to build their webs is a very different silk than they use to wrap up their prey, which is a very different silk that they use to wrap up their egg cases. So they're really able to cater the structure and they're sticky silk too, which is a whole other different kind that they're able to cater towards the need that they have. And that's why the understanding of spider silk biology is still a rapidly developing field.
Okay, so we got one more class that we haven't gotten to. That's Miss DeGroot's class in Iowa. So go ahead, and if you have somebody that has a question, we can hear from you guys. Let's see. Hold on. Let me unmute you. Okay, go ahead and ask your question there.
What do you do with the bugs you collect?
Oh, what do we do with the bugs that we collect? Oh, so I can actually show you a sample from one of the houses that we collected at in North Carolina. So I think that something that people don't realize is with insects, they're really hard to identify unless you're able to look at them under a microscope. And so a lot of times with the insects that we collect, we collect them and then we bring them back to the museum so that we can identify them under a microscope later. And here's an example of some of the insects that were collected at one house in North Carolina. So all of these insects here came from one house, and each drawer represents a different, or each little tray represents a different room in a particular house. And so you can see how, oh, why am I not able to pop this drawer open? So this is just the one bedroom within that house, had all of these different arthropods. And sometimes when we're collecting arthropods in houses, they're already dead, so not everything is alive. But everything from a centipede to all of these tiny millipedes that are in this file to some really cool beetles were all found in somebody's bedroom. And so most people have a lot of things and they don't even realize it.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Misha. Okay, so this is how this is going to work for the last bit. This is like power question time. We've got a little less than 10 minutes left, but we got through one set of questions. So what I want to do is I want every class to be able to ask one more question. So start thinking who you want to ask that question. And I see everybody's hands raised over there in Mr. Groot's class. But what you're going to do is you guys can talk. You're all muted. Figure out who's going to ask the question, and then Miss Lee and Miss Frank's class, you guys are going to have to write it big on a note card for me so you can hold it up. I'm going to get to you guys second, so you can hold it up for me, so you're prepared. But let's see. Let's go ahead and go back to Todd Sinclair, Mr. Sinclair's class in California, and you guys can ask a question, and Misha can power through these last ones.
Okay, I'll do them quicker answers. I'm sorry.
Let's see. Where is Todd?
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, there we go. Go for it.
What's the most endangered insect?
Ooh, the most endangered. Well, there's a lot that have actually been so endangered, extinct. And in California, we actually have, I think, more listed endangered insect species than anywhere else. We have the mission blue butterfly, which is this tiny, beautiful blue thing. I used to study bumblebees, or bees in particular, bees in general, and there's a bumblebee that we don't know if it's gone extinct or not because it just hasn't even been seen by people who've been looking for it for over 30 years. So maybe it's just been hiding somewhere, or maybe it's gone extinct. We don't really know yet.
Okay, awesome. All right, Miss Lee and Miss Frank's class in New York City, go ahead and stand up and give me your question. And your microphone is definitely off, so I'm just going to leave you guys muted, and you're going to have to hold up the question to the microphone for me. I don't know what, if it's a feedback thing. Oh, great. Did you find any bugs that have interesting designs?
Ooh, yes. I mean, it really depends how you want to define interesting. As far as insects in houses, probably the most interesting design to me are some of the beetles. I think the beetles have really interesting kind of designs on their backs. Here's an example of like what a beetle can look like, where they get these striped backings. So as you can see, sometimes insects look really crazy. And I've actually even seen an insect, not one that I collected in a house, but insects from Papua New Guinea that have like these crisscross checkered type stripes on their backs, which is crazy. We call them Easter egg weevils.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Next class, why don't we go back to Wisconsin, Miss Wisniewski's class. Okay, and I am unmuting you. Go for it.
How does the climate affect the bugs?
Oh, that's also a really good question. So there's this idea that insects are adapted to a certain type of temperature, and so as it gets warmer, they have to move either north to cooler and cooler climates, or sometimes we have this analogy of like a mountain, and so insects that are found at a certain elevation on the mountain, as it gets warmer, they have to move higher and higher up the mountain. But at one point, they're going to be at the top, and there's nowhere else to go. And so it's definitely clear that climate is affecting insect distributions, but in all the different ways that they're being affected, we're still trying to sort that out. So that's a really active form of research that people are working on right now.
Man, I really enjoy hanging out with Misha because she knows everything I think there is to know about bugs. Always something new to learn, of course. But okay, the next class is going to be Miss Bennett's class in Missouri. So if you guys have a question, go ahead and stand up. I have you unmuted.
How do bugs fly?
Ooh, yeah, so you might have heard, so sometimes when we talk about insects, we define them as, they have 6 legs and they have 2 pairs of wings. And so, like in this example of a grasshopper, they have this so beetles and these guys, they have their hind wing is really important. They move aside this top part right here, and then they're able to fly with the bottom side. And then also with beetles, even though it doesn't really look like they have wings in the same way a dragonfly or a butterfly does, they also are able to spread over the top part of their wing. We call them elytra, these hard wings, and then they have wings underneath that allow them to fly.
Okay, awesome. 2 more questions we have from Surrey, British Columbia, Miss Utsunomiya's class. Let's see, that would be Jessica. Okay, there we go. And I have you unmuted, so go ahead and, oops, hold on. Unmuted. I got to unmute you. It's muted. I can't unmute it. Oh.
Yeah, it looks like it's good.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Go
ahead.
As a kid, did you always want to be an entomologist?
I don't think I knew the word entomologist, but I think when I was a kid, I played with them a lot. I grew up in a city. I grew up in Oakland, California, and so when I think insects are everywhere, and I would see them in my backyard or just on the sidewalks. And then when I got to junior high and high school, I think I talked to one of my teachers about, like, I really like insects. Do you think I can work with them and he told me, no, insects are weird. Don't bother. So I kind of did that. But when I was in college, I teach a class in Costa Rica, and the insects in the tropics are so cool that I just got sucked right back into it, and I haven't really looked back since. And the
Okay.
insects are weird.
Awesome. Okay, I don't know why I couldn't unmute or mute you guys, but go ahead and mute yours back. And then the last class is going to be Miss DeGroot's class. Go ahead and ask a question. And I have you guys unmuted, so go for it.
What's your favorite bug?
What's my favorite bug? Oof. I think it changes just about every day because I learn about something cool and new. But let's just say for right now, I think I would have to go with, I'm going to go with the bumblebee because even though that's an insect that a lot of people know, usually I like to give like a really weird one that no one's heard about, like the heel walkers or something like this. But what's cool about bumblebees that I don't know if everyone notices is when you look for them in the early spring, when it first starts getting warm again, you'll notice that you'll see some really big queens buzzing around, but you'll also see teeny tiny workers because queens aren't great foragers, but they have to create that first round of their colony, and they're little tiny bumblebees that aren't really well developed. And then as the season goes on, the bumblebees get bigger and bigger, and so I think that's just a really cool part of bumblebee behavior, and so that's why I'm going to say bumblebees are my favorite for today.
Awesome. Man, wow, this was a fantastic little lesson on insects. I can't thank Misha enough for joining us. And we have all these classes from Wisconsin, WAVE, and British Columbia, Iowa, Missouri, California, New York. You guys were fantastic asking some fantastic questions. And I'm sure this is going to inspire you to get out there and get some books on bugs and read up on them. I'm sure your libraries have a lot of them. So definitely do that. Also, if you guys have not found our Untamed Science videos, you need to check them out. Who wants to watch more Untamed Science videos? Raise your hand. I just want to see. All right. That's awesome. So hopefully your teachers can help you, direct you into that. We can watch more bug ones. Misha and I have 4 more continents to go to. Australia and Asia and Africa and Antarctica. It's going to be really awesome. Is there anything you want to say before we go, Misha?
No, I think people ask great questions, and so, you know, just keep, if you have more that we weren't able to get to, feel free to just, like, I'm sure we can look them up somehow. There's a lot of stuff that we don't know, but there are plenty of things that we do. So if you didn't get your question answered, there are other ways to find out. So hopefully you'll get that.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. And, you know, send us an email or a tweet, anything you can, whenever you have questions. We'll see what we can do for you. All right. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.
And we're signing out.